Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I'm a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher, and I share my creative process here with you online. If you enjoy this channel and would like to get additional bonus live streams twice a month, you can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $2 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/Jeremy and sign up. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. In addition to bonus live streams, like the one we're going to be having tomorrow night, you're going to get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord server where we share works in progress, art tools, tips, feedback, encouragement, all that and more. And you also get access to an online digital archive where you can read my comics digitally. So head on over for that. If you like to get a free digital sketchbook, work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. There's links in the description for this video, as well as links for the Patreon. And there are also links to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page if you would like to pick up physical copies of my comic books, or if you read digitally on Kindle, you can go to there's Kindle editions available there as well. So amazon.jeremy.net. Those are all of the links. Okay. So I see Byron is in the chat. Says, hey, people. Hey, Byron. Good to see you as always. Thank you for popping in there. All right. Today. So still in the writing phase for my new comic book. That said, I've got enough of it fleshed out that I'm working on character designs. And I've actually got quite a bit of a folder of like the main characters and different iterations of them. But there are multiple villains that are creatures in this story. And I figured I would work on a little bit of creature design today. And the creature that I'm going to be working on, it's one of the villains, and it is called Limos. And it is a creature from Greek mythology that is a representation of famine, starvation, and hunger. So as opposed to a god, this is sort of a demon or a monster. And I've done a few doodles and rough sketches of this character. And what I am thinking of is locusts are obviously creatures that are associated with plagues and famines, eating crops, and biblical plagues. So I thought, I looked up a locust. I also looked up some photo reference of the molted shell of a locust. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to combine that with a skeleton. So, and I don't know, I may not make it a full-on skeleton. I may just make it a person that's really emaciated. But my goal is to make this creature an emaciated, skeletal, basically a combination between a locust and a human skeleton. So let's see here. Let's drop the opacity and block in some rough sketches. I appreciate the encouragement. Brian says, all right, I'm liking where it's going already. Well, honestly, just having interesting reference and starting off with a concept, being a good drafts person will get you far. But I think having good ideas will get you farther because, there's lots of artists that I love who I would not say are necessarily the best draftsmen, draftswomen, but they are interesting. And the ideas they come up with are interesting. And that is probably more of what I strive for as opposed to just, drawing well. I am always trying to draw well, but more often than not, when it comes to that, I feel like I'm trying to catch up. I feel like I'm trying to grow and get better and improve, but I don't ever see myself as, I'm not trying to compete with like the Blizzard concept artists or the people that are doing like the amazing DreamWorks like character designs. Those people are so good, and I would love to learn and be able to do what they do. But my standpoint is much more of just trying to make the best art and stories I can with the abilities I have. So right now, I'm just sort of blocking out a stick figure because there's an image in my head that I've had of a locust descending over a person. And the way that Dracula would like enfold or envelop people into his cape, I want to have this locust skeleton wrapping its arms and its wings around a person and kind of sucking them in and them starting to be like drained and turning emaciated. So I'm starting with just a stick figure. And to be honest, I realize I'm probably making this figure too bulky. I don't generally draw super skinny characters. I either draw muscular buff or I will draw maybe, curvier characters, broader hips, or like athletic builds as opposed to, well, slender is one thing. Emaciated is something that I never do. And I think that this is something that is both a strength in that I like to push myself and try things that I haven't done before. And it is also a curse in that, my buddy Carl Alstetter always says, it's like, you got to stop trying to reinvent the wheel every time you make a comic. I like pushing myself and trying to do things that I not only haven't done before, but honestly, things that I'm either not good at or don't think I can do. Because I don't know, that's what keeps it interesting for me. It's that challenge. But because of that, I am frequently drawing stuff where it's like, okay, this is not leaning into my strengths. And it means I have to work a little bit more. Let's see here. Byron says, they're good. They also spend upwards to 100 plus hours on a single illustration sometimes. Economy of time. He says, to be fair, sometimes reinventing the wheel can be the fun in itself. And I agree on both of those. I usually try to get stuff done as quickly as possible. However, that thing about reinventing the wheel, yes. For me, what makes a lot of this stuff interesting is just that concept of exploring in a strange land. Being a stranger in a strange land is the best way I can put it. Just trying something and either not knowing if I can, or basically it's almost like someone daring me to do something that I theoretically don't have the skill set to do. I just find it fascinating. Oh, and speaking of spending 100 plus hours on an illustration, when I was doing my intro at the top, there was something that I meant to share with you guys. And what that is that I finally finished the, let me go back out of this folder. I may have mentioned this in last week's live stream, but honestly, my brain week to week is so that I honestly can't remember. But I finally did finish this, the Gorgon Enthroned piece. So it definitely has rougher, more angular line work, as opposed to being super refined and everything being in its right place. But it felt right to me. It felt kind of rugged and, and I mean, in the end, I'm pleased with how it came out. As pleased as I can be. I appreciate that. Byron says it looks great. And I appreciate that. Thank you. I will tell you that what made me remember this is that Byron pointed out, DreamWorks or Blizzard illustrators, Blizzard concept artists spending up to 100 hours on an illustration. This piece I spent 45 hours on. By the time I was done with it, I looked at the time detail that it has, the breakdown, and I spent 45 hours on that illustration. And a lot of that, and that also doesn't include separate files I opened for doing color studies. But that is rare for me to spend that much time. Let me, if I should darken this up a little bit. No, that's too dark. When I say darken up, I'm just trying to figure out what opacity I want to go to for this this piece. But anyway, I actually was kind of both proud and bummed out that I spent that much time, 45 hours on a single piece. Proud because I normally haven't had the patience, and I will move on and do something else if something is taking that long. But, you know, at the same time, I do feel like I look at it, and this is me just being hard on myself, which I tell you guys not to do, but I'm looking at them all, it doesn't look like 45 hours worth of work. But then when you put it in the context of that I would be less than halfway done if I were a Blizzard concept artist, I'm like, all right, fair point. Wow. And thank you. Worldbender is in the chat, says that looks absolutely awesome. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. I always I love to hear the encouragement, and thank you for joining the channel. I'm not sure if I'd seen you before. If you aren't new, please make sure to subscribe, because I do these live streams once a week, Sundays, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So hopefully I will see you again. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I tend to ramble on while I'm drawing, and then every 5 or 10 minutes or so, I'll take a look at the chat, like, oh, and then respond to some chats for a little bit, and then just keep drawing. Right now, what I'm working on is character design for a creature that is sort of a monster of famine, kind of like the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, except this is a creature that is it's kind of half locust, half skeleton. And I'm just working on initial character designs. I'm trying to figure out the best way here, because I'm going to be covering up a lot of this with the wings. So this is going to be sort of a skeleton with the head and wings of a locust. And I'm just trying to decide how I want to. I'm working out some rough anatomy underneath, even though I'm going to put wings on top of it. And maybe taking a look at this, I'm trying to decide whether I want to have it have hands, or kind of, it might be better if I just give it sort of claws. Yeah, I think the claws just feel a little bit creepier. And honestly, I'm just putting enough arms in here that I can estimate the anatomy. That's going to be under the wings. But for the most part, I'm going to have like wings. Well, here, I'm just going to rough those in now. Let's see here. And I see Chris in the chat. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Having fun doing a little bit of character design here. And I will say that for as much as I keep bitching and moaning about not having started my next comic, being able to do character designs for it does feel like a at least I'm making a step in the right direction. It's comforting to be able to make some sort of progress on it. You know, I can already tell you that this is too big. I'm gonna have to make this a little bit smaller because what I wanted is for it to have two sets of wings. So it's got like these large wings that are hanging down, and then slightly smaller wings on the shoulder. Increase the opacity a little bit. And let's see. By the way, that print that I showed, the the Gorgon Enthroned, that print is available at my website, jeremy.net. I just put it up last night. I had been meaning to put it up since I finished it. I finally was like, I got to put it up because I was going to work on my my newsletter for next month, and I needed to include it, which meant I needed to have it available for purchase. And I might get crazy with the Locust design and try to really make it feel more alien than it currently feels. It's kind of interesting because a locust does have this. It's not like it has a long, slender neck like humans. It has this piece that's going right directly from the head into the thorax. This kind of like this piece that's up here. You know, but I almost feel like having that long neck helps to sell this whole emaciated famine theme that I'm going for. So we'll have to see how that plays out in my sketches and my designs. But, this is a first pass. This is me just starting to really work out this character. It's going to have to grow and change. In fact, I think that I may have, well, I don't want to say messed up here, but what probably would work better is to have these wings that are here, the lower ones, have them go far enough across that the feet are exposed. Because one of the things I kind of wanted to have was to have this creature kind of always hovering above the ground. In fact, let me go to full opacity here. I'm just going to make a little thumbnail of a thumbnail. Actually, I already started building the body wrong because I was making it a little bit curvier than it should be, really accentuating the difference between the pelvis and the rib cage, and sort of the torso in between. But I think that this creature is more suited to something that is just longer and kind of like an erect tube, because that is kind of more true to the body of this insect. And part of this sketching phase is going back and forth between the reference and my imagination, because I'm combining two bodies that don't overlap. It's one thing to kind of try and say, what if you mashed up Superman and Batman? Because I saw that more recently in Dan Mora and Mark Waid's World Finest comic. I thought it looked pretty cool. Well, actually, it kind of reminded me of the Red Hood, to be honest. It was cool, but I was like, eh. But I mean, the artwork was phenomenal, is my point. I don't want to throw shade, because the only reason why I brought it up is because I thought the book was awesome. But that's like combining two superhero bodies versus combining a human skeleton with an insect. And these bodies do not go along with each other. But what I am doing here is I'm trying to sketch out a little bit of what I'm imagining its posture is in silhouette. And part of that, very particularly, is I wanted to get this sense that instead of walking, I kind of want to have it just creepily hovering everywhere it goes. I'm sort of inspired a lot by Gary Oldman's Dracula performance, when he was in the castle as the old man just gliding around the castle in that super creepy way, where it's just like sliding. You never see him walk. Like, that's what I kind of want to get with this creature. So let's imagine, what would this be? So I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get that effect of zzz, like it's sort of blurring as it's flapping. Let's see here. And also, let me raise my brush size up a little bit. Something I preach and haven't been practicing, which is working with silhouette more. I've been preaching it, but not practicing it. So let's see here. And Byron says, I like that idea. Maybe it can suddenly zip at high speed bursts, not really moving its body for maximum uncanniness. Yeah, I mean, I kind of would see it almost like a hummingbird, in that it would just be sitting there kind of zzz, and then all of a sudden poof, poof, poof. But yes, yeah. So just like a creepy ass hummingbird. That is kind of what I'm going for here. I mean, I'd like to concept this thing to the point where, who knows, maybe it ends up getting developed as a film or an animated property, because while I don't see myself doing animation, I think that the way that this creature moves and the way a lot of the creatures in the story move lend themselves to animation or visual effects, at least. And the nice thing about using this silhouette method, that's probably a bit too big, is that I can use the eraser as my detail tool. Just come back into things and say, all right, I'm just gonna some lines in there. I also have to try and be careful to not be too overly influenced by Brack from Space Ghost Coast to Coast. because I think that's a pretty damn cool character design. Yeah, basically, imagine Brack meets Gary Oldman, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. That's what I'm going for. Let's see here. Oh, nice. Thank you. James says, okay, you got it. Entertaining ideas and having fun. Byron says, to be fair, there's definitely definitely worse you can be inspired by. Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think because I know Alex Toth designed Space Ghost, but I do not know if he designed Brack and all those other characters. To be honest, I never really my memory of the original Space Ghost is so vague that I can't remember whether Brack was something that they combined from another Hanna-Barbera cartoon or whether Brack was in the original version of Space Ghost as well. But yes, being inspired by Toth is definitely, I'll take that any day. I would love to be called a Toth ripoff. I would be honored to be called a Toth ripoff. Let's see here. Thank you, Chris. Chris says looks cool. And Byron on the spot with the comics history and animation history is like he did. Alex Toth. Good to know. Let's see here. Actually, here, let me erase this only because I kind of want to turn this hand inward. So it's almost like he's folding his hands. Even though it's a profile, I kind of want to get the sense that he's folding his hands inward, like crossing them. This is a little wonky, but that's okay. I think positioning these hands so that they would be crossed and still read properly his claws is something that is difficult to do in a full-on profile. I think in a 3/4 silhouette, there might be a little bit more room for it. But I'm not going to get overly caught up in that. In fact, here, let me go back down here to this. I still want that, but I just felt like it needs to be simplified. Something kind of like this is what I'm thinking. let's see here. Oh, oh, in terms of being a Toth ripoff, I'd be honored. Byron says, "Wouldn't we all, brother?" True. James says, "Looks like an insect," and he says, "Did you mean Zorak?" You know what? I think you're right. Maybe Zorak is the locust or praying mantis looking character, and Brack, I think, might be the guy that has the red mask and like a bear looking guy. I might be getting Brack and Zorak mixed up. I think you're right. For some reason, I thought that Brack was the name of the locust or praying mantis creature. So again, apologies for mixing up my my space ghost. But yeah, off the top of my head, I didn't remember exactly. I think you're right. Never let it said that I will not stand to be corrected, because more often than not, as my wife will say, you're just talking out of your ass. So it happens. All right. I could get in there and detail this with just little things like more little I don't know, spines coming off of the limbs. And one thing I kind of wanted to do that I think will add to the creepiness. First off, let me carve in here a little bit and see if I can make the bug eyes a little bit more. Nah, I think that's fine. But I wanted to have one set of antenna just going straight up, and then another set of antenna curving back like horns. Like a ram's horn almost. And that really just adding sort of that evil feel. And then also bulging out the back of the skull a little bit more. Yeah, I think this, for concepting a character, little thumbnails like this, I feel, are more useful than me sketching out a full illustration. Like, I'm still going to go in here and finish roughing this out and just see how it feels, but it's going to be more influenced now by that little silhouette that I did. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, James says grasshoppers. They jump pretty high. He says, so one antenna isn't so full. So I don't know what the term is, but I can see the distinction. I don't know what the term is either, but the idea, really, from what I've seen in the reference, they just have like the one pair of antennae, but I have seen creatures that have two antennae. And this isn't something that I'm like, I'm definitely going to stick with. I'm starting out, and I'm just going to see how I like the look of him having a pair of horns that antennae that act as horns, as well as a regular pair of antennae. And this is definitely something that may stay, may not. We'll see how it goes. This is one of those where people would be like, well, why do you design the antennas that way? I'm like, I just thought it looked cool. It may go, it may stay. I don't know. But the creature himself is actually, yes, it is. I'm sure that obviously grasshoppers and locusts are related, but it is a character that it's a mythological creature called a Lemos from Greek mythology. And it's a beast, a creature that represents starvation, famine, and hunger. So I'm basically doing a mashup of a locust with a skeleton. And I'm not even necessarily planning for it to be a full skeleton. I'm planning for it to just be someone who is very, very emaciated. Now, this is an interesting idea. Let's see what happens if I go if I go back to working silhouette, but working on silhouette on this front view, and I will tell you, this is something that schoolism helped me with. For many years, I've always admired when I see concept artists doing the silhouette concept art style, but I never really felt like when I tried to just draw the outline, the silhouette of a figure, it felt like I was just searching and searching and searching. And I never realized it's not about drawing this perfectly clean, crisp silhouette that expresses everything that you want. That I realized, oh, you can sketch the silhouette. Meaning, I am somebody who tends to use construction lines and volume and kind of build up forms, like more of an Andrew Loomis Bridgman method. And what you can do is, I never realized you can apply construction to silhouette. I always felt like you either drew a clean silhouette or you did a construction drawing. And what I'm finding is that I can work kind of similar, I think, to the way that Mike Mignola, Hellboy creator, does, where he may have large areas of black, empty shapes, but he's still doing all of that, building it up, working out the anatomy before he goes in and draws those huge dynamic silhouettes that his work is known for. And I don't know why I never realized I couldn't just combine the two. I think it's a matter of my thinking just being too rigid as a general rule. Let's see here. Oh, in talking about the antennae, James says, will you have one horn and the other one in between doesn't have that broad stroke? I said, that's what I mean by distinction. Ah, yes, I see what you're saying. And Sword, I'll answer your question in just a second. What I was trying to go for was I drew the one that's slightly forward first. Or, I mean, I drew the one that's slightly forward second. And what I was trying to do by placing this one where I placed it was to give a sense that we're looking at the profile, but the one that's farther away from us starts in the front, but goes farther back, so that we're kind of like seeing it them, and then we're almost like we could imagine seeing the two long ones coming from in between those. And I may not have pulled that off visually. It may be that that's not how it reads, which if it doesn't, it's good to know that. I'm also concerned with the fact that it's just me roughing in these designs. I'm not too worried about it, but I'm glad that you pointed that out. And that may be another reason why a pair of horns or a pair of antenna may not work instead of a single antenna. Or it might be that I need to move the attachment point for the longer curved ones, like me, small brush. I might need to move the attachment points farther back on the head, somewhere down here. That might be a way to get them to read better. I will come back. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave that arrow there as a reminder to revisit the position for the pair of antennae. I may need to actually intentionally place their attachment points farther apart so that they read as a pair of long and a pair of short. I haven't decided yet. I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to keep that other pair. So I see Sword in the chat had a question. And thank you for the question. And thank you for watching. Sword says, hello, wondering if you're still doing writing or plot writing videos for comics. I think you have one of the best videos for writing comic stories. First off, thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't have more videos planned as an ongoing series, but what I am planning actually is to turn that video into a book. So that way people who got a lot out of it will just have, a written version down for them to work from. I'm going to try and make it like a workbook, or like have sections that you can go in there and take the steps that I outlined and basically kind of give yourself a checklist to work through for your own process. And it isn't something that I'm going to get to right away, because I've been going back and forth between doing a Kickstarter campaign for my next comic series or doing a Kickstarter campaign for that video, for the book based on that video. And so far, it sounds like the book is what people want to see next from me more than another comic. But I also feel like I've been going through a bout of writer's block, and it seems crazy that somebody who made a video on the writing process would be struggling with that. But the thing I've learned is that no matter what tools you have at your disposal, there's always going to be a certain level of, you still have to figure out, each new project brings its own challenges. So I felt like I wanted to get through this bout that I'm going through so I can take what I learned about the writing process and apply that to the book. So I can say, look, even though I made a book on writing, I get stuck too. And I have solutions on how I've gotten through it, but I want to take them a little bit further before putting that book together. So, but here's the thing. I am always open to just feedback and questions. So if you have specific writing questions, you don't have to ask them right here and now. You're more than welcome to. But on any video I post, if you have a question about writing, about storytelling, about plotting, about character, go ahead and leave the comments on the video and I'll answer them in a future live stream. Because the way that whole writing video even came around was because I had posted a time lapse of an entire comic book page where I had recorded the thumbnails for that page, the rough layouts, the penciling and the inking, and the gray tone. So I had like one video that showed an entire comic book page from start to finish. And somebody said, hey, I really like that. That's cool. Can you do something like that for writing? And I thought, well, it's harder to make the writing process more visually interesting in terms of like making a video that's compelling. But I had never really sat down and, codified or broken down my writing process. So I decided, even if I didn't know how it was going to go, I was going to try. And that's how that video that I had, that how I write comics video came to be. Someone just asked me, tell me how you write comics. And I said, this is my process. And apparently a lot of people have found that very helpful. So, I'm grateful for that. I had to make my process as simple as possible because I've spent most of my life working on drawing. And I realized, even when I was working on my second project, Morningstar, I realized that the first one I did, Eye of the Gods, was really just me, writing kind of more by instinct than anything else. And that I really had to put in just as much time into the craft of writing as I had been putting into the craft of drawing. So let's see here. Sword says that's fantastic. Now, do you use any softwares for plotting stories? That might help for that might help for brainstorming. I do not. I just use plain old Google Docs. I just write in there, and usually I'll keep one Google Doc for. The way I've done it in the past is I had one Google Doc for outlining and plot ideas, and then one Google Doc for the actual script. Now what I'm doing is I'm using Google Doc. I'm using the outline feature where I'll create headers within the doc, so I can jump from section to section. And I'll have a section for research. I'll have a section for for character for character descriptions and history. I'll have a section for just random notes. I'll have sections for certain topics that are just specific to the story, and that seems to be working well for me. I don't think it would work necessarily as well. Like if you're doing an ongoing comic book, you might need to break that down, or you might need to say, all right, I'm going to do one of these documents for each 6-issue arc, because I think anything. I mean, once you get to a doc, I think mine right now is probably somewhere around 60 pages. But once you get to something like around 100-page Google Doc, you're probably going to want to start breaking that down and say, all right, this Google Doc is for this arc of the story, then move to the next one, the next one. I know a lot of people recommend Scrivener. People also, some people use Final Draft, which is a screenwriting software specifically, but they'll use it for comic writing or other types of writing. I don't think it's necessary to have special software. And I think if you want to do something like mind maps, I'll tell you right here, Byron mentions I'm a bit old school. I keep a pocket notebook that I use as a brain dump. The old notebook method, definitely solid. I think that there is something great about having tactile tools to work from. And by tactile tools, I mean the actual physical notebook. You can always transcribe that or whatever information you discover that you need, transcribing that into a digital software later on. But the nice thing with a notebook is that you can go ahead and you can draw mind maps in there. You can use all kinds of brainstorming techniques for visually laying out ideas for stories. Let me see. Right before that, Byron said, one thing I've found that becomes more and more of a truism as time goes on is the fact that in the face of the process, even great advice can potentially fall through depending on intentions. Yeah, that's true. In the end, and this is why I wanted to work through sort of the issues I'm having with my current story before putting together a book of my process, is that I have a process, and that process served me well for all of Morningstar, my previous comic. And now the new project I'm working on has so many more characters. And to be honest, the thing that's challenging is that I'm going deeper in terms of theme and relationship. That's the big thing, is I'm realizing that for me, the stories that have really captivated me, what was the captivating element was the relationship between the characters, how they interacted. And if you make characters that people care about, then you will follow those characters wherever they go. It doesn't all have to be plot, action. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think that you can do a story that does have nonstop action, but you still care about the characters. Case in point, Mad Max Fury Road. That's one that I think, there are some people who are detractors, but for me, I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was very Shakespearean in that it stripped the story down to a compelling character arc with a clear goal, but in that you're following a character and you're getting closer to that character and you're learning more about that character. Well, I mean, you're really learning more about Furiosa and the characters around her, because Max himself is kind of like James Bond in that movie, in that he's a force of nature. Max doesn't really change much in that movie compared to what we, and that's consider the fact that that's Tom Hardy's first stab at the character. It's pretty amazing that it feels like we know from the Mel Gibson movies what we think of Mad Max as a person, as a character. We know that he is somebody who is very gruff and survival oriented and always taking care of himself first. But we do know that we've seen him develop empathy and reach out and stick his neck out for people, even when he knows that he shouldn't. In the words of Bunk from The Wire, he's giving a fuck when it ain't his turn. So yeah, those are the things I'm trying to inject into my writing going forward. And it is a whole new set of toolbox in the same way that, like, if you've only drawn before and now someone gives you a set of acrylics, says, here, go paint. It's like that. It's a whole different, it's an emotional palette of storytelling tools versus a story structure palette. And up till now, I've been working with a story structure palette. So it's challenging. Let's see here. So Byron says, I'm a bit old school. I keep a pocket notebook that I use for a brain dump. Then, once I have enough to work with, I start the thumbnailing process in a sketchbook. My brain just works better in analog, even if the finished product will be done digitally. Yeah, I have definitely gone back and forth. And even now, I'm working digitally. I don't necessarily feel like this is going to be the way I work forever. I really got a lot out of doing my thumbnails and my layouts for my last series digitally, and I thought, this would be so much quicker if I didn't have to scan in all of my my layouts, or if I didn't have to scan in my final inked pages and having to printing out layouts on Bristol board, inking them, scanning them in. I was like, what would it be like if I just was able to do the whole process from start to finish? So also my next comic is going to be an exercise in working through this and seeing how I feel. And it might be something where it may speed me up productivity wise, but I may still not enjoy the process. So I've got this guy in here screaming, and I'm wondering if I should have his hand sticking out holding a sword. Oh, that's an idea. And this is something I've played with. By the way, we're going to wrap up soon, so I just realized the time has flown by. We're at an hour, so let me just rough in where I plan to go with this. But if anybody has any final thoughts, now's the time. Final thoughts or final questions, now's the time to ask them, because I'm going to rough this out. And then from there, I'll close out the stream. But while I'm still sitting here sketching, let me also remind those of you that are Patreon subscribers, like I said, we're doing another art book study group session tomorrow to make up for the fact that I, took some time off for the holidays. So we were having them back to back, and that they've moved from Wednesdays to Mondays, because I have figure drawing class on Wednesdays now. So tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, will be the second Art Book Study Group session of the month. And we will be continuing our study, our deep dive of Walt Reed's The Figure. So the reason why I've got this guy's hand like this is because I'm going to draw him sort of dropping his sword. And I know that it wouldn't go up like this. It would be falling downward. This is just me starting with the idea and seeing how it fits. And then from there, I can always change the arm position. I mean, this isn't even something that's going to be a final illustration in the comic. I mean, I could see this being a cover of some sort, but definitely not as I've got it drawn out here. I would completely redo the composition once I figure out the best way to express this idea. But yeah, that's what thumbnails are. A lot of times it's just the crappy version of the idea so that you can come back later and say, all right, what does this really need to be in order to be something cool? This looks more like He-Man's sword than like a Spartan sword, which is what I was going for. This is a very piss poor sword. Just telling you guys, you know what? It happens to the best of us. I wasn't planning to throw a sword in here, otherwise I would have grabbed some for reference. And I do actually have a sword somewhere in the files, the rough sketches for this this comic. I've got a folder on here with just a variety of rough sketches and early reference. You know what? If I'm going to do this, let's do it right. I'm going to get in here and actually make this hand into a full-on skeleton. Like it's really withering. Let's see here. And by the way, Byron, I'm going to read these comments, but I appreciate you sharing more of your thoughts and process with Sword there. Like Byron's laying out some great stuff in the chat. For people that watch the replay, scroll through the live chat that's on the side. You can see what's going on and all the stuff that people are talking about while I'm drawing. And the other thing for people that are watching on different platforms, so I'm streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at the same time. And that's why I try to put up the comments and read them, because some people, like James said, he can see the Facebook chat, he can see the YouTube comments, but on other platforms, they may not necessarily see the comments from Facebook. Or the people on Twitch only see in the chat what they commented. You know, they only see other comments from other Twitch users. So it's kind of weird that we don't have a shared chat. But I mean, they're all different platforms. I'm the one who can see all of them at once. But James says, it reminds me of The Fly Outbreak, which I read a while back. I don't know, is that a sequel to the Jeff Goldblum Fly movie? I was not aware of that. I mean, I know it's a David Cronenberg movie, but Jeff Goldblum. I say Goldberg. Jeff Goldblum is what popped into my mind first because, creepy as all hell. Let's see here. Sword says traditionally, art does have more value when selling, correct, rather than digital. And Byron said, depends on whether or not you have someone that wants to buy. Digital art is easier to sell and move, especially when talking long distances. But if you find a collector for traditional pieces, they'll generally pay more per piece to actually own it. And so it says, thanks, Byron. Those are great points to keep in mind. And Byron says, even if it's not going to be a final illustration in a comic, it certainly sets the mood for the monster and the tone of the setting. Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I was going for. I appreciate that. And James says, yeah, it's a sequel, graphic novel. All right, I will have to look for it, see if I can find it somewhere, find it online. I was not even aware that there was a Fly graphic novel. My thoughts are that, yes, selling, I mean, I sell more prints than I do originals. I have found that for me personally, I've never really sold a lot of original art, although that may change because I'm going to start. I finally found, I think I shared this with you guys last week to my joy. I finally found a drawing paper that has the same finish and the same texture as newsprint does, but for archival paper. So I can actually do drawings to resell based on my figure drawing work, which for me, the reason why that is so powerful is because it is something that I spend a lot of time doing, but I'm not monetizing. And yeah, if I was only worried about money, art is not necessarily the best field to go into. But I do actually have to earn money in order to be able to keep making art. So anytime I can sell what I'm making or what I'm drawing, the better. But that said, for me, I tend to sell prints from my website and at conventions. I sell a lot more prints than I do original art. But you can sell original art. The price tag for original art generally is more. However, when you sell original art, you're only selling one. When a piece is made, it's done, it's gone. Whereas when you make prints, you can sell multiple times. You can either do limited edition prints where you say there's only going to be 100 or 50 or 20. And the lower the number of editions in the print, the more expensive you can make each print because they're more rare. Or you can do what's called open edition. And open edition just means you either print them to order or just there's always going to be more of them. When you run out, you're going to print more. And my prints tend to be open edition. And that is not an endorsement, only in that I have yet to figure out how to make the selling of limited edition prints work for me. The same problems I have with selling original art is the same problem I have with selling limited edition prints. I haven't built up the audience for it yet. If I can, it is something that I think would be good for my artistic business. So we will see. Hopefully I will get there. There was something else I was going to say. But it's not an either or. You can do both. You can make a piece of original art, sell that original art, and then you scan it in and you make prints of it. It doesn't have to be that you only sell prints or you only sell originals. In fact, it is best to do both because there's no reason not to. And just if you can find an audience that buys your originals, that's great. If you can find an audience that sells prints, that's great. If you can do both, that's just more money in your pocket. So it's not really an either or in terms of doing digital art versus traditional art. The digital art just has the advantage of being faster. And here is something that I don't know if this is controversial. It doesn't sound controversial in my head, but you guys might tell me, oh no, people poo-poo this. I have often thought of taking some of my more popular prints, and I do have original sketches of them that I have for sale, but I have considered going and taking some of my popular prints and redrawing them as traditional art. So let's say I have a piece that is 100% digital, and people like it, people respond to it. I sell prints of it. I don't think there's anything wrong with going back and doing a painting based on that original print. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Because I mean, it's still my work, and just because I did the digital version first doesn't mean that I can't make a painting. So it's almost like I'm using the faster digital process to road test or proof of concept. That's a term that in using design is just to see if something really has market value, whether people will spend money on it, is to make a proof of concept. And in fact, I think that you could very easily make an argument for that's a good idea to make prints of a digital piece. And maybe that digital piece might have taken you 10 hours, maybe 20 hours to make. And if you were to have done it traditionally, it might take 40, 50, like we were talking at the top of the stream, 100 hours to make a traditional version of that. But if you have a print that is selling really, really well, then maybe at that point it is worthwhile for you to spend that 100 hours and make that original piece and have that for sale. And I mean, I don't know. Is that crazy talk? You guys let me know. Anyway, I still have a lot more to do in terms of flushing out this character design. This is just sort of an early pass. And by the way, speaking of Byron, keeping it real with traditional art, I do have other sketches of this character I've done. Those are in a sketchbook. This is I think the first one I'm sketching this character out digitally. So let's see. Byron says, "Oh, nice. I'm gonna have to check out the last stream when I get a chance. I haven't been able to watch as consistently as I'd like." Before I read the next comment, let me just show you, because you might appreciate this. Let me grab the paper. So for anyone who draws with, I'm gonna have to go big. For anyone who draws with charcoal pencils or with charcoal in general, this is the paper that I found. So it's just Arches drawing paper, extra white. They also have it in cream and I think tan or brown, one of the other colors. But anyway, this paper, I'm using a 9x12 pad, comes with 16 sheets. If you like the feel of drawing on newsprint, particularly smooth newsprint with charcoal or charcoal pencil, if you like the way that it blends, for years, I have been searching for a paper that replicates the feeling of smooth newsprint, but is archival. This is the pad. I'm going to do a bunch more drawings like this, and I'm going to do stuff to sell. So hopefully that will allow me to monetize my figure drawing studies, and that will allow me to spend more time making art. So we'll see. But that's the hope. I'm putting that intention out there in the universe. I'm going to create figure drawings for people to consume, decorate their homes with, and hopefully it'll lead to good things. All right. So let me switch back and hit these last couple of comments, and then we're going to call it a day. So let's see here. So Byron says, and psychologically, it's been shown that if given the option between a limited premium item and a mass-produced item, the FOMO will push them to buy the limited, more original one. And he says, I see nothing wrong with doing that. If there's a market, then you're just catering to it. So the idea of like doing a print and then doing an original afterwards. And James also, on board with that, says digital tends to be faster. Yeah, that's the main reason the main reason for working digital is the ease of use. You don't have as many materials that you have to set up and break down or carry with you. It's easier to make corrections. It's easier to iterate and do like not just thumbnails, but just digitally like recoloring different versions until you work out the way you want a piece to be. It's got a lot of upsides to it. But yes, that selling of original art is the downside unless you do the original afterward. So let's see here. And Sword says, absolutely not crazy at all. So I'm glad to hear it. We'll see how things go. In fact, one of my jobs was supposed to do this weekend, and I just haven't had a chance yet, is to set up an Etsy shop specifically for my figure drawings. So I'm gonna get that up, and I'm gonna try and get that up and running today. But if not, it's got to get up and running this week because I've been meaning to do it since December. Well, hell, since November. All right. On that note, and Byron says, thanks, Jeremy. Hey, I'm happy to share, fellow art traveler, art journeyer. If it's something that's useful to you or any of us else out there in the ether that have been enjoying the lovely embrace of newsprint but want something a little more permanent, I hope that it serves you guys well. I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. I still have to do a bunch. I only did like 3 or 4 drawings to test it out. But as soon as I did it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is buttery. So we'll see how that goes. And on that note, if you guys enjoy this live stream, we'll have to get 2 bonus live streams a month. And these aren't just 1 hour live streams. These are like 2.5, sometimes if I've got the energy to stay up for it, 3 hour long or more live streams. In fact, I think the longest one we've done was like a 4.5 or 5 hour live stream. And I think I was on vacation and I just stayed up. And Kingslow Fitness, I think, was in the chat. So he just kind of checked in with me. At a certain point, he came back and was like, "You're still going?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm up. I'm in. I'm feeling it." But anyway, it's something we call Art Book Study Group. And what we do is we take some of the best art books around and do deep dives in, try to suck all the knowledge out we can. So same way I would do a study from another artist or an illustrator, I take educational art books and do studies from them. We've done some George Bridgman. We've done some Ken Holtgren animal drawing. And right now we've been doing a long-running series with Walt Reed's The Figure, which I think is one of the best books on the drawing fundamentals out there. And there's a whole archive of videos, hundreds of hours of these already existing for Patreon subscribers. So if you want to join up, even if you can't make the Art Book Study Group sessions live, the replays are always available, just like these. They're available for Patreon subscribers. So there's hundreds of hours for you already to watch. And then the one that we're doing tomorrow, that will also be available right away. So as soon as we finish the stream, it'll be there for you guys to replay. And I usually will post on the Discord server and on Patreon the actual individual sketches and studies I did from that session. So all that will be there for you guys to check out. You sign up for as little as $2 a month, get you in. And there are higher tiers for higher rewards, but you also get access to the Patreon exclusive Discord server, where we've got a community on there where we share encouragement, feedback, tips, tricks, process. We've got like a general tab where just when we see cool shit that we want to share with other art folks. I need to start an animation channel within the Discord server because we've got a lot of guys in there who are very much into animation. I've studied animation. I've done animation. I'm not currently an animator, but I want to make it a place for the community. And if the community is into stuff that's just off the side of my interests, as long as it's still art, I'm like, let's make a spot for you guys to get in and chop it up there. And I'll just chime in. I may learn a lot of cool stuff just by watching everybody else in there communicating and talking. So I need to get that done. And you get access to an online digital archive where you can read my comics on Patreon. So all that for as little as $2 a month. Description in the links in the description for the video. And if you're watching on Twitch, there's links in the About Me page. But the website is patreon.com/GERIMI. And if you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comic books, or if you read digitally on Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. It is a standalone book, all done in one, a psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. Then you've got my second series, my most recent project, Morningstar. It tells the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven as a Western. So it's an 8-issue series. Volume 1 contains issues 1 through 4. Volume 2 contains issues 5 through 8. So it's the conclusion to the series. Both of these have extensive back matter, character designs, thumbnails, page layouts, photo reference. I basically show you how I put the entire book together. So, and if you go to the homepage of my YouTube channel and scroll down to book flip throughs, there's a section where I flip through all of those books so you can see what's inside before you pick them up. All right, guys. Again, it is always great to hang out with you. If anybody is new that joined or is new watching the stream later, please hit that subscribe button. Come back around, hit that share button, that like button, help spread the word. But I definitely want to see you again. And if anybody has any questions, if anything in this conversation sprung up some questions, then by all means, leave them on this video or leave them on another video, and we can talk about them in future live streams. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Byron says, thanks for the stream as always. Have a good day. And it's like, guys, really, you're the ones I need to thank because you guys really do make this so much funner. Hanging out and people to engage with while creating and talking about the creative process. James says, good reads. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. He says, be sure to exercise and eat well. Self-care is real for artists because if you don't have your body and your mind right, you can't be creative. You got to take care of yourself. Got to be, as healthy as you can in order to thrive as a creative person. So yes, definitely take those words from James. It's the truth. It says Morningstar looks interesting. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I try to write the stories that I would want to read as a comic book fan. I figure if I'm into it, hopefully other people will be too. And on that note, that's it for now. Go be creative.